Have you ever met someone who've had such a significant impact on your life and then after a short period of time, they just vanished without a trace? If you did, you probably had an encounter with the Ceilican. Legends claim that this tribe died out during the purging of the witches in the 15 and 1600s, or the Great Witch Purge as it is called. The Ceilican came so close to extinction that they actually were thought to be dead for a very long time. With werecats being as resourceful and studious as they are, they took advantage of this opportunity and actually went into the background and hid in the shadows for a very, very long time. They were so good at this that every tribe thought that they actually had been wiped out. And for many centuries, the Ceilican were hidden and they actually infiltrated pretending to be members of other tribes. However, while they were infiltrating other tribes and pretending to be members of their clans and living amongst them, the Ceilican were able to keep in touch with each other using an arcane message network called the Silent Way. Many Bastet have a Perio, which defines a lot of their personality traits. A Perio is similar to that of the Guru auspices, except for there's no real special abilities attached to it, it just more defines a personality trait. The Ceilican must change its Perio at least once per year. This effectively changes their personality, it changes how they act, they take on a new name, and they go about a new life, and they must do this once per year. As one might imagine, this makes long-term relationships extremely difficult. When a Ceilican changes themselves in such a way, while they don't directly tell anyone what they're doing, or where they're going, or who they're becoming, they will leave clues. So those who know them very, very well will be able to find and follow the clues to their new life, while others will only be left with the memory and experience that they shared for that brief moment in time. So let's talk a little bit about the tribe and how they operate. Because of the Ceilican's nature, how often they change their names in their lives, they tend to wander the globe because global travel makes that so much easier. They tend to avoid all the other werecats, with the exception being their own kind of the Ceilican with their Silent Way. There's one other exception to this rule as well, and that is for when the tribe has a gathering. It's held each Samhain Eve on the Scottish moors. If you were to ask any of the Ceilican in confidence whether attending this celebration, this moot, is a good idea, they would all tell you privately, no. While the Ceilican's numbers are still very small, they don't feel that it's a good idea for the cluster of them to gather together in one spot. Because if an enemy was to figure this out and plan an attack, they could wipe out this entire sub-tribe. However, in public, no one has been so bold as to say they won't show up, and no one's been bold enough to make that first action yet, to say that they will not come to this kind of gathering. Because cats love a good party. So even though the risk to the tribe grows each year, they still go and have a good time. Originally, the Ceilican tribe hails from Northern Europe. The feline kin of the Ceilican were the maneless lions that inhabited the region. They were hunted to extinction during man's earlier occupation of the area. So some claims go. Others of the tribe feel that their heritage is actually linked to the Scottish cat, a smaller feline which hunted the forests in the British Isle. During the pre-industrial era, this race of cat was also hunted to near extinction, but not quite. Others of the tribe actually support an idea that they are not linked to any heritage of any cat that exists on Earth today, but they are in fact linked to the spirit of cat, Cat C. This would be a feline fey spirit. The problem with some of the theories that exist about the tribe's history, if your animal kinfolk, the animal species of which you are delineated from, if that species dies out, that's it. Your changing breed is done. You have no more animal breeding stock to go with, and your changing breed will die out. So if they are descendant from the maneless lions from the Northern Europe region, how are the Ceilican still around? The most likely explanation is that the Ceilican actually draw their heritage from the Cat C. This would explain why they still exist, because that animal race has not died out yet. There are less than 100 of that specific species in the wild. So an extinction event could still be coming for the Ceilican, and it could be much sooner than they actually anticipate. This is, of course, just some speculation on my part. the actual reason and their actual history has been lost, and no thanks to how often they change their name and change their nature and just disappear. For the moment, the Ceilican continues their existence. They continue to live amongst the other tribes who they've adopted, and they will continue their tribe through the intermingling of other tribes and themselves. So what does a Ceilican look like? Well, in their human form, they look like anyone. They can come from anywhere, and this is from all of their globetrotting and their intermingling with other tribes. So from a human perspective, they can be just about anybody. However, their feline forms tend to resemble that of house cats, although a very large version of a house cat. And they can have all kinds of different patterns or stripes, spots, what have you on their fur. So leave that up to you at character creation. This particular variance of their patterns has helped them when they've integrated into other tribes as well. Now we come to the section where we talk about the Yava of the Ceilican. The uniqueness of the Ceilican tribe when it comes to their Yava. When they were going through their mass extinction event, they were able to put forth a plea to the Fey spirits. This, of course, prolonged the life of the tribe. However, it did come at a significant cost. The reason that the Ceilican are so mercurial and take on these new personas every year is because of this deal. It was basically like a Fey curse that was put across the entire sub-tribe. Now, because of this deal, the Yava of the Ceilican have two properties. So if you're playing a game that's set further back in history, you're going to use the historic version of the Yava. If you're set in modern day society, you're going to use the modern day version of the Yava. I should also note that Fey magics are not permanent. Over time, the Fey magic has begun to wane, and many Ceilican are finding that the historic versions of the Yava are starting to become more relevant and actually have more effects on them than it used to. If you're coming at this from a storyteller perspective, you can use this as a story hook for your game, potentially. The Ceilican do not like iron. Historically, if you were to touch them with iron, it would burn them and leave a permanent mark on their bodies. In modern day times, it must be pure iron, and if it touches their skin, it affects them the same way that silver affects Guru. Another interesting Yava of the Ceilican. Historically, if you were to say the Ceilican's name backwards 3 times, it would cause them a great amount of discomfort. If you said it 6 times, the Ceilican would die. Modern day times, if you say their name backwards 3 times, it causes them some discomfort still. There have been no reported cases of a Ceilican dying from having their name said backwards any more than that. The third Yava of the Ceilican. Historically, if a Ceilican was to hear the peal of a silver bell or a church hymn, the cat would be struck deaf for 3 days. In modern times, it's a little different. The bell is more entrancing for a modern day Ceilican. If they are to hear the peal of a silver bell, it'll be very difficult for them to concentrate on literally anything else. It's difficult for them to continue to engage in whatever conversation they were doing, whatever activity they were doing. It's also very difficult for them to leave the sound of the bell. It should also come that in modern times, the evolution of the church hymn, any deeply spiritual music of any denomination will also entrance the Ceilican, whether they have that particular spiritual leaning or not. And then, of course, the final Yava of the Ceilican, and there's only a modern version of this one because it came out of that ancient deal. The Ceilican every year must forget who they are, take on a new life, and go build that somewhere else. And of course, they can't directly tell anyone of the change. I think this is an interesting sub-tribe when it comes to the changing breeds. There's a lot you can do with some of the history and have some fun with their ancestry. There's some really good story arcs here as well if you're coming at it from a storyteller perspective. Messing with Fae is always a bad idea for a player. For the storyteller, it's always that much more fun. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed today's video, and subscribe if you want more content like this from myself. Up on the screen now, I'm going to have a playlist of the other Changing Breed tribes so you can take a look at them. YouTube will also have selected something for you to watch. My name's Nathaniel. You've been watching The Maple Table. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. Many Bastet have a perio which blah, blah, blah.